guys, I'm Lucas. I'm here with Ellie. Ellie is a student here in the Wolfram Summer School, and Ellie kindly agreed to talk a little bit about her background and talk little bit about her project here in the school. And first of all, thank you, Ellie, for agreeing of being here.
No problem.
You're very important because you have a distinct background that we're gonna talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the first thing I would like to know is what's your background? So what did you study? What's your interests? Can you tell me a little bit more about this, please?
Sure. So I've always been a math person. When I was a kid, I was always put in the corner of classrooms to do extra math problems because I was always kind of ahead of where the other kids were, and I loved to do that. So I was perfectly happy to sit in the corner and do more math problems. So when I went to college, I was actually interested in doing more than just math. So I studied philosophy and logic.
Wow.
And so I've always been interested in the kind of foundations of mathematics. And back when I was in college, which was actually in the mid-'80s, the sort of computational sciences hadn't been as fully developed as they are now. And so at the time, I didn't see the path forward to developing my interests outside of potentially studying philosophy in graduate school, and I kind of wanted to do more of applied math. So I wound up becoming an actuary, which is somebody who works in statistics in insurance and pension industry. So I did that for many years, and then I went to Stanford for grad school. I was in the engineering department studying engineering economic systems, and I became very interested in decision analysis and how humans make decisions, both sort of normatively and also sort of how we would like to make decisions in a fully rational way. So then I studied at Stanford, and I went and worked as a consultant applying those frameworks to a range of industry applications. And over many years of working across different industries, I started to realized that I was still interested in these very more fundamental abstract ideas that had originally kind of drawn me toward philosophy. And at the same time I was developing an art practice. I've always been somebody who makes things, little fiddly things, and knitting and just doing these repetitive type of making activities. So I kind of was, in parallel to my professional world, I was always doing these repetitive making things, and I started to realize that the reason I was doing all this repetition and the reason that I had this fascination with this making was because I loved pattern, and pattern was telling me something about, these fundamental abstract concepts, and I really wanted to explore pattern. So I started to spend more and more time on my art, I would say at this point, I have an art career and a professional career. So I was spending more and more time on my art career, and started to realize that I wanted to explore some of these more formal computational frameworks in my art practice. So I was making things with beads, doing this loomless bead weaving work, and I was making forms and shapes, and I was fascinated by how we could kind of play with the ideas of growth and how growth creates form and organic form that we recognize, even though we might be imposing very regular patterns.
Yeah.
And what I wound up doing is I realized, okay, I can understand how the different sizes of beads affect the shapes that evolve from these growing forms. But what about if I play with the different colors and qualities of beads? How can I use the fact that beads come in so many different colors and surface qualities to kind of continue to explore pattern? So I kind of went back to my early, very young fascination with the game of life and cellular automata, and I realized that I could implement these rules in the beadwork. So I started to,
So you have studied
Yeah.
this when you during undergrad studies or something?
Well, I didn't really study them as an undergrad. It was just always I was always reading adjacent to my formal studies, and I think at the time, this was sort of late 80s, early 90s, there was there were some popular science books published about complexity theory and so those complexity books kind of sparked my imagination.
Nice.
But I was also very interested in the rules, the game of life, John Conway's implementation of this sort of dynamic cellular automata type of framework in 2 dimensions. So when I was very young, I was even, coding little versions of
Wow,
Game
that's
of Life in BASIC on my neighbor's computer. But yeah, so I went, and so when I started to return to my exploration of cellular automata, this was the first one that I did that had a cellular automata rule in the colors of the beads, and this is Rule 90.
Wow.
So yeah, and so since I did this Rule 90 pattern,
Rule 90.
Rule 90.
That's a specific rule. Why did
Yeah.
you choose Rule 90?
Well, it was a very easy rule to memorize because actually Rule 90 is simply what we would call in logic XOR.
Oh, I see.
And so as I was moving, I build these from the middle outward. And as I was moving around these from one row to the next to make the pattern wider, each time I place a bead, if I'm placing a bead between 2 beads that are the same color, I put in a light bead. And if I'm putting the bead between 2
Wow.
beads that are a different color, then I put in a dark bead. And it's as simple as that. You don't have to look
So
at a
it's-
pattern, you don't have to memorize anything. It's just same
So
light.
you use the
different
logic
color.
of cellular automata to make the connection of these beads that resulted on this.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you mind showing this to the camera?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's...
So this
It's amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was the first one
Wow.
that I did.
So you did like a computation with beads, but
Yeah,
in the real world.
absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and so and I realized that I was learning a lot, computationally in this it was more of an embodied type of exploration that we would normally not have the benefit of learning this way when we do it just in the computer.
I see.
Yeah,
Because we only see the final result. We don't see like every step on the way.
Right,
And
exactly.
what you did, that was like a way of slowing down the process, so you go
Slowing
bit by
it
bit.
way down. Yeah.
So it's nice because it's like reading a book. If you read like a page in 10 seconds, maybe you don't absorb as much.
Yeah.
But if you like go like word by word, sometimes you absorb more.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, I would say so. And when you do this very slowly, you start to ask different kind of questions too. I can't always articulate what those questions are, but there are questions. And then I also tell myself stories. This was a very easy one, so there weren't many. And I was really trying to.
This is the easy one.
Yeah. This was the first one I did. It was very easy.
Maybe it's easy for
But
you,
yeah,
but I'm not
yeah.
able to do this.
I mean, this is the one that I'm still working on, so it has strings hanging off of it.
Wow.
This one is more complicated. I can show it to the camera.
Yes.
It's hard to probably get a view of just
Wow.
how complex it is. The beads are very small, and this one, there are a lot of stories inside of this that I.
So how
taught
many
myself.
colors do we have here?
Oh my gosh!
We
I
have
think,
many colors. We have
yeah, there are at least
pink,
6 colors.
green, yellow,
Mm-hmm.
something.
And then there's a sort of transparent
Wow.
type bead, and there's a sort of more metallic version. There's dark green, there's light green, yeah.
But for this, you use like a specifically rule or something.
This is also Rule 90.
Oh, it's rule 90, but for more colors.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
so all I do is in certain areas, I, resolve the rule just based on those 2 colors in that area. And then I might introduce a bead just sort of for
I
fun.
see. Just like
and
a
then-
seed.
A seed, exactly. And then I sort of see where that will
Wow.
go and what kind of opportunities
Oh my
it presents
God, this
from
is
one row to the
fascinating.
next. Yeah,
It's like computing with, what's the name of this?
thread.
Threads.
Yeah.
There with beads, here with threads.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's like a computational, but one can see what's happening.
Right,
Wow.
exactly. And as I was working on these kind of in isolation in my art studio, I was starting to do some research on cellular automata, reading about it in New Kind of Science. I was listening to some lectures online about not only about the cellular automata rules, but about other things that I thought that these patterns were creating really profound metaphors and analogies for understanding how negotiations might play out, among people or groups of people because you're introducing these different colors and that kind of creates this sense
That's a beautiful analogy.
and then I also was thinking just in a very primitive sense about the power of symmetry. As I'm working on these, there's a lot of opportunity to make mistakes. And early on, when the pattern is very small, it's easy for me to check if I've made a mistake because the pattern is very small and I usually go for a kind of a general symmetry. And so symmetry is my friend because very early on, symmetry keeps me in line and it gives me a way to really quickly check if I've made a mistake.
I see.
And I realize that check that symmetry affords me is free. It's free. It's like if I'm using these rules, this simple Rule 90, which I don't even need to memorize because it's so easy, I can easily check for mistakes for free because it's symmetric. And so then later, as I get further on in the pattern, it's harder and harder to check for symmetry because, I'd have to check across a much wider area. But at the same time, errors in symmetry, small errors, aren't going to make as big an impact on the pattern.
I see.
As they would if I had made the mistakes in the early stage.
Oh, so you're saying that if you made a mistake like in the initial steps, it will perpetuate, but if you make afterwards, like after a number of steps, it will not affect that much.
Yeah. I mean, it does affect it, right? But that's what adds the beauty and interest to the piece. Whereas if I had made too many mistakes early on, I think you might not find the piece as pleasing because it sort of looks like there were kind of significant mistakes.
I see.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. I think that it's amazing that you could like apply the logic the computer does to art, and this is fascinating. But as you are telling me, you studied these things like for a while, but what about Mathematica? Where Wolfram Mathematica comes into play?
Yeah, so I was working on these patterns, and I was looking at new kind of science, and I knew that there was what I was doing is something that could be implemented computationally. And I wanted to try and predict what the results would be if I were, making them by hand, because these are very time consuming. Like I can't even tell you how long something like this would take. It's embarrassing to me how much time I spend doing this. But so I wanted to implement them in a computer, and it was obvious that Wolfram language would be the right environment to implement these. So I went to the Wolfram Institute Discord community and posted some pictures of what I was doing and just kind of wanted to see how people responded to it.
Was this recently?
This was probably within the past 6 months. No, you know what? It might have been back in November or December.
I see.
So, late last year.
That was something I was going to have to ask you because why did you apply for the Wolfram Summer School? So that's because you just bumped into it very recently. Yeah,
so quite recently. So when I posted on the Discord channel, somebody responded. I should go back and see who it was with just a simple statement of code that I could use to generate an array plot.
Which is really easy using.
It is very easy. Right? Yeah. So it was just a single line.
Yeah, single line.
I wanted to see. So I was very excited with this single line of code. I mean, the way that they look in the array plot isn't triangular the way that I'm doing them, but I understood enough to be able to kind of map conceptually what I was doing onto how it was being presented in the graphics that were generated. So I was playing around with the parameters and doing a little bit more work in the computer, but that made me even more curious to do more beading. So I was doing more beading and posting it, and then I got very excited about some of the fact that I was making these observations about symmetry. I was making observations about how easy it was to memorize this rule. Rule 90, like I told you at the beginning, I didn't have to memorize it at all. It was just
apply the logic.
Just apply this very simple logic over and over. And I thought, are there other rules that could be as easily to memorize as Rule 90? So I kind of made a little bit of game of figuring out which other rules had a very similar, easy way to memorize. And so I identified that there are a lot of rules that we can articulate without the kind of formal rule plot,
I see.
but that we can describe in words, in English words, in very easy way to memorize. So I did a small paper on that.
Really?
And published that small paper, and at the same time I thought, I should also look into coming to the summer school.
If you agree, we can put the link of the paper published in the description of this
It's
video.
a little bit, it's I call it a little bit unhinged because I didn't have any kind of experience in writing a paper like this for the Wolfram community. So people have been very polite about how crazy,
really
how much is in that paper. But yeah, I'm happy to send the link of that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then you just found out about Wolfram Summer School.
Yeah.
And then decided to apply.
Yeah, I mean the order is a little bit, so I found out about Wolfram Summer School because my brother James is an educator who's been for many years part of the American kind of education innovation community, and he's met Stephen a few times at different conferences.
That's nice.
And he knows the Wolfram community quite well, especially the ed tech folks. And my brother, I was having dinner with him in the city, I think it was in New York City in November, and I was telling him that I was very excited about what I was discovering with this work, and that I was in touch with the Wolfram community to kind of play around with some code, and he said, I think they have a summer school, you should look at that. So I immediately applied. Yeah.
That night you didn't sleep, like just browsing.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought there was no chance that they would, admit me to the summer school.
Why?
Well, it's funny because I knew that I had the quantitative background.
Yeah.
But it's been many years since I've been able to work in a computational way. My day job is absolutely not having to do with Wolfram language or much coding. I mean, I do some coding.
A lot of people have been talking to me. I'm not sure if it's your case, but it was my case. I was a little bit skeptic at first if I would be accepted, because I never really got into like programming with Wolfram language.
Mm-hmm.
I just used the basics, like to make graphs, to make derivatives.
Right.
But I said, like, is that enough?
Yeah.
Did you feel that? Or was it just about this?
For me it's a little bit different because where the reason I wanted to go was more part of my art practice.
Okay.
I just thought, where might this take me? And so I applied I wasn't nervous about it. I didn't really, I didn't think that I had a chance to get it. I thought I had a small chance to get accepted.
Okay.
I thought if they understand what I'm doing, they should be interested. I was somewhat confident. But what I was a bit uncertain about is that the application form didn't really give me a lot of space to express what my strange, quirky interests were. It was a little bit more traditional.
I see.
So I filled out the traditional form. I didn't want to sort of make myself into some sort of an exceptional case. I just wanted to kind of okay, this is what you asked for. I filled it out. So a few months went by, and then there was an update on the process that they had not yet had the round of consideration, and it may have been that there were certain people who had been contacted but others hadn't.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been contacted, so then I wrote again just in response to that, just to say I wanted to provide a little bit more information.
Just checking in.
Yeah, and I just did say I know that I might not be your traditional candidate, but I just wanted to underline that I have a strong quantitative background. I've always been interested in this space since I was very young, and I am working very seriously in my art practice on understanding in a very rigorous way the conceptual and analytic frameworks within which I'm working. And I really do want to be able to connect with the community to explore these ideas further. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And then what did you feel when you were accepted?
Yeah, I was super excited. It was a no-brainer for me. I was immediately, this is, and I view it as an art residency. That's the funny thing, is that for me, as an artist, Artists tend to, when they want to kind of inject some new creativity, new ideas into their practice, they'll often go to a residency and meet with other artists and find, they look for ways to activate their creative process. And so I saw this to myself as an art residency.
Yeah.
And it had, yeah.
That's the next question I was going to ask you. Like, what are your impressions were like by the end of the second week?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, there's 4 days left.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, I know.
Let that sink in. Just say it to myself.
Yeah.
We have 4 days left, and what do you think you're gonna take from this experience?
Yeah. Well, what I haven't done at all the whole time we're here is I haven't done any kind of bead weaving. I haven't done any art. I've really immersed myself in the computational side of the work, in improving my coding skills, and also having a conversation about the conceptual ideas rather than working on the actual bead weaving. So I've been working on a project that is a little bit orthogonal to this bead weaving practice. I'm developing a framework for thinking about a limited edition of patterns for a textile run, where we use cellular automata to create a non-duplicated series of textiles that are all related to each other because they come from the same initial seed, but that they don't, there's no duplication from one of the limited edition elements to the next. And so it's just gotten me to learn more about the cellular automata generation process, how to use the functions to check for duplication, and then also how to think about entropy. So entropy over space and entropy over time. And now I'm trying to put together a sort of the description of why we should be interested in a limited edition series based on the same rules but random initial conditions. And I'm trying to motivate that from a sort of space-time patch entropy conversation. Nice. So it's, yeah.
So do you use like Shannon entropy?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, Shannon is buried here in Boston.
I know. I really want to go.
Did you go there?
I didn't go yet.
It's amazing. Yeah. There's like this name, and in the back of the grave, the tombstone, there's this formula for the entropy. It's amazing.
Yeah, I have to go see that.
So it's really nice.
Yeah.
And have you been talking to a lot of people, meeting new people with different backgrounds?
Yeah.
How was that for you?
That's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, the people here, it's been really such a pleasure. I mean, people come from all over the world. It's really incredible. I'm sure you've noted that.
Yeah.
Where people come from all over, many different backgrounds. Everybody has, this shared interest in kind of computational thinking.
Yeah.
And it's a very unique way of looking at the world. And so we can talk about a lot of different issues, but we kind of bring the same kind of fundamental framework to the conversation, and to sort of pick out like where our little common interests are, and now it's been a lot of fun. That's the best part, actually, is the people.
So, who's gonna be Ellie after Wolfram Summer School?
That's a really good question. I know that it will be hard for me to step away from the coding. I have too much fun with working with using Wolfram language to kind of like solve the problems that I want to solve, and to articulate. It's just another way of articulating these abstract ideas, and I really like using coding along with my art practice. But I definitely will want to go back to the making, and I think I might make more sculptural works again.
Really?
I've been working. Yeah, before I went down this the cellular automata sort of wall hangings path, I was making these kind of very abstract. They look like sort of burnt matches.
Do you have a website?
I can give you the Instagram.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
It's right now I just use Instagram, but I do have to put together a website.
No, Instagram is the website.
Yeah. So I was making these forms that sort of look like burnt matches, but I was changing the different bead colors, and so they have these abstract qualities that they remind you of different types of forms that you've seen, people hunched over and different things, but they're more abstract. It's not exploring this computational space. But what I kind of like to do is play with some other cellular automata rules, maybe not rule 90, but maybe rule 30 or rule 45 or 105. I have some favorites for various reasons, and use them to create forms that will stand up and echo the patterns in them. And then I might add different types of material to the beads. So bits of wool.
Wow.
To mark some of the beads differently, some wax maybe to mark the beads differently. I just want to kind of play around with the surface qualities of the pieces to make them a little bit more, less oppressive. Right now I find that the glass beads and these arrangements are very intensely, there's so much information contained in them, it can be very intense to look at. And I just want to make some work that has a slightly more gentle and poetic feel. Yeah.
In a sense, what you're doing is like changing the cellular automata from 1D to 2D.
Yeah.
So you can visualize it like in 3D, but you know there are some plots that you can do like with a 2D cellular automata over time, over steps.
Yeah.
It looks like a 3D visualization.
Yeah, like ivy hanging down.
Yeah. So you'll probably try to focus on that. Or it's a little bit different?
Well, what I was thinking is a little bit different from that because it's creating a sort of table sculpture that would stand on a table, and it would actually, the architecture is more kind of like would be more like a pyramid. Mm-hmm. So they would be more similar to these than the sort of game of life 2D hanging cellular automata. Though I also think about doing some kind of a suspended version of a 2D automata, which I think would be very interesting. And
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and eventually, one thing that I'd really like to do is work on a group show of computational art. I'm really interested in art, in using art to mediate between people and robots. So I sort of see myself as making art objects that can be enjoyed by humans and robots together. And so what I'd really like to see is at some point, sitting down, it would not be Lucas, it might be with a robot, and showing my work, these objects to the robot who might be able to manipulate them and enjoy looking at them and solving the puzzles of trying to understand how it's been made.
Maybe the robot will look and say, oh, this is rule 90, so because they're already computed.
Right. But then they might be interested to see, why did I put these inclusions there?
Okay.
Where are there some mistakes? What was, when I changed the rules in slightly in certain places, where were those changes
It's like you put your touch, Ellie's touch into the cellular automata.
Right.
It's not exactly a copy of what we would get in the computer, right?
That's right. So that's why I think that it would be interesting for humans and robots to look at together, because it's not an exact copy of what an AI or robot or computational agent would do. This is actually shows where humans might make mistakes and where humans might impose some variety that might not be computationally generated. And humans make very different mistakes from those that computational agents make. In fact, computational agents don't really make mistakes, they just face limitations and constraints. And so, I think that robots will always be fascinated by human mistakes. And human mistakes in art are the most beautiful mistakes, So that's why,
I mean, even to use the word mistakes, maybe it's not the best word, because that's what makes us humans.
Yeah, I love, to me, I think mistake, it shouldn't necessarily have a negative connotation, right? I think that the mistakes are, it's what makes us human, and I think human mistakes are what makes us so valuable.
Yeah.
And we will never, AIs are never going to be able to generate human mistakes.
Yeah.
And
Not even simulate them.
right, right. And they will always they will always need human mistakes to kind of create the creative and computation to sort of create the variety in that will fuel additional computational breakthroughs.
I see.
So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for
thank
agreeing with
you.
this talk.
It's
I learned
really
so much.
nice to talk to you.
I learned so
about
much
this.
with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing your Instagram, your art, and your manuscript, your article.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for agreeing. We have 4 days left for the school,
Yeah.
and thank you very much. I hope you have hope this experience helps you shape a different era of your art from
Yeah.
now on.
No, for sure it has, and it's really been very nice to meet you too, Lucas. So,
Thank you. It's really nice to meet you.
Good luck with the last 4 days.
Thank
Don't
you.
spend too much time recording podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, I had a little time now to sink in to digest this 4 days left,
Yeah.
Because it has been an amazing moment to me, and I think that to everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's there are some philosophers that says that the happiness is that moment you wish never ends, and I wish this school never ends.
I agree with you.
So
I feel
it's
that
really
way
amazing.
too. It's been
Thank you very much, Ellie.
Yeah.
Thank you
Cheers.
very much, guys. So this was a conversation with Ellie about her background and her art and her project here in the Wolfram Summer School. And that's it. Thank you all. Bye-bye.